When was the last time you cried and why?
It was probably a week ago, and it was because there's just so much in my life right now where you have to make decisions, and either you follow your passion or you kind of do what your relatives think is a better path for you.
Right.
And sometimes you hold all those emotions in for like months, and you can't cry forever, and then you just have to.
Like 2 days ago, because I miss my home and my family. I'm out of town. I'm from Turkey, Istanbul, so I'm just visiting here, and it's been 20 days away from home, and I just miss it.
The last time I cried was probably a day ago, and I was listening to this song, and I could really relate to the lyrics, and it really touched me emotionally, especially due to a past relationship. I felt like the song allowed me to express myself a little and get into some emotions that I'm not usually into, so that was the last time I cried.
The last time I cried, I was on the phone with my therapist, and they were like, "Don't you think you have a problem with intimacy?" And I said, "No," and I started crying. But we're working on it now. She's on the phone, so they're, nice to get through this. Very difficult.
Right.
Everybody should go to therapy.
The last time I had a really big cry was when I was watching a biography film of Sir David Attenborough, and they showed the world as he saw it when he was young. And then as they went through his life, they showed in percentages how much of the world's wildlife cover has been lost. And as an animal lover, this was really tragic for me.
Wow.
So I find nature documentaries very inspiring, but often very distressing. So we all need to do our bit to save the planet.
Exactly. What's your advice for people who are polluting?
Investigate ways that you can stop or at least mitigate the pollution. There's a lot of things that we can do day to day that can make a huge difference.
Right.
Often they're sort of tough and require us to think critically about the way we live and make some sacrifices of convenience. I think it's the same for business, but increasingly consumers are holding businesses to account. This week is New York Climate Week, and a lot of people interested in the space are gathering here. So super inspiring. Taking this little guy for a walk between events. As the Americans say, trying to kick ass and take names. But we'll see.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Last time I cried was about a week ago when the Queen died in England, where I'm from. And it wasn't necessarily sad because it was the Queen, but it's sad because it reminds you of the elderly people we've lost. And like my grandparents are no longer with me, and people like that. And yeah, just sometimes it's good to shed a tear.
The last time I cried is when my mother came home from a nursing home for rehabilitation to learn how to walk and things like that from COVID. So she had COVID pneumonia, and it was a really rough time for our family because she was gone for like 7 months, I think. Yeah, I think 7 months. And it was really emotional because she came a long way from like being like, intubated, like in a like medically induced coma, and then learning how to start again, like everything over again. It's just been like, it's been a process, but she's made it through so much so far. So yeah, it was tears of joy rather. So yeah.
Honestly, I cry every day. I cry every day to release. Stress is not something you should hold in, and it's a good therapeutic way to get through life. So, every day.
A few years ago, I had my tooth pulled out, and I was in so much pain. It was so much pain. They gave me painkillers, and it still wouldn't help. Like, I crawled underneath my mother and cried under.
That was the last time you cried?
That was the last time I cried.
Wow. Thank you so much.
No problem, buddy.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think the last time I cried was last week. Me and a close friend, we're just like kind of talking out like our relationship as friends and how we're like come from different worlds and want like different things out of life. So it was a hard conversation about maybe we should like distance each other a bit just because it's causing disruption. Not necessarily in like a poisonous way, but just in this is getting in the way of a grander goal that I'm trying to achieve and things like that. So that was one aspect that was probably recently that I cried, and I'm pretty sure another time that I cried recently was just during the movie. I find I'm very moved by art, and when a piece of work is like rather, how do I even put this, just like, you know, pulls at the heartstrings the right way, I allow myself to open up, and I really like being moved by a piece of art. So I think last time was something I watched on Criterion Collection. I'm not really sure what it was, but there's movies in life, you know, stuff that makes you feel.
I want to say December. It was December 31st, actually, New Year's Eve. That was the day I buried my grandmother, 2020. New Year's Eve of 2020, buried my grandmother. And then the same day, like later on, when I got home, I found out that my favorite hip-hop artist passed away, MF Doom. That was all on the same day. That was the day that they announced his passing, and then that was the day that I buried my grandmother. So I cried that day. Couldn't help it. My grandmother was, you know, she lived a long time. She was 96. And then MF Doom inspired me to do what I do in art. So that was like a lot going on in one day. So I had to cry. I had to shed at least one tear.
The last time I cried and why is when I had found out I had COVID. I went from one hospital and it wasn't detected. When right away the fever got worse, and I went to another hospital and they tested me with other more in-depth tests, and it was a very scary ordeal because that was new for America and other countries about the COVID-19. So now I'm doing great. I have my immunizations. But for a couple of days, I was kind of like leery and crying, and but now I'm okay. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Would you want to tell me about the transition from a different place?
Oh yeah, and also recently, because COVID was the previous year, but recently, even though I do write on, I have a Master of Science in Social Psychology. I'm a social psychologist, and I do a lot of writings myself. To help communities integrate. I basically, moving from here, from South here, I miss like the green grass and all the green trees, and that's here, but this is more like brick and mortar, like everywhere. And so I was just homesick from friends, and I had to meet new people, and it's good. I love new people. I love culture. But you know, I didn't cry, but I was, you know, kind of homesick. Yeah.
Last time I cried was a couple years ago. I was in a fight with my parents, and there was a circumstance that I thought they should have handled differently that they didn't, and so I got really upset, and that was the last time I cried.
Wow. What do you want to say to your mother or your parents if they watch the video?
I love them. Thank you for everything you've done for me, and I'm gonna make you proud.
The last time I cried was yesterday. I'm a college student. I go to school full time, and yeah, it's a lot juggling life and college at the same time. So, did that.
It's a stressful time.
It is a lot.
I cried yesterday because this is my first time in New York, and my name is Brooklyn, and so I saw the Brooklyn Bridge for the first time, and it's been a dream of mine for my whole life, just because the history of the name and things like that, and where I'm from, I don't feel like I belong necessarily. And so seeing a place that even though I've never been, it means so much, just because, again, that's my name. Yeah, I just got overwhelmed and cried and stared at the bridge for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been like the best day, just wandering around Brooklyn.
Do you know the reason why you were named Brooklyn?
There wasn't really any significance, but as I've grown older, I see a lot of things in my life that kind of are similar to aspects of Brooklyn, like being a bridge. I've been told that I'm a bridge for people, and so that was really cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you ever think of moving to live in New York?
Yeah,
permanently in Brooklyn.
That's the plan. I hope so.
Wow,
But yeah, I'm still exploring and seeing what's out there. Still growing.
amazing.